here's the deal. Fire and Ice, when I did it, this is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about rotoscoping, and the brilliant Ralph Bakshi, who had first started this. They're going to do actually a live action of Fire and Ice very soon for all you Fire and Ice fans. But I was able to voice Princess Tigra, and obviously you can tell I looked exactly like her. Actually, in the booth with Simpson stuff, they have Princess Tigra, and my daughter said, who's now 21, is this like a porn movie? I said, no, it was Frazetta. That brilliant, brilliant Frank Frazetta, who, if all the people from the 70s, if you remember it, were, you know, the Zofted women and like the He-Man, which you go, it's so great. It's some women's rights at the time, but a lot of it, I was just like huffing and puffing and, you know, wearing low-cut, beautiful outfits with this girl who did the rotoscoping, which for a lot of you that don't know, was one of the first ways that you would do the live action characters, and then they would do it more as almost like a play where, you know, like you would be filming a scene and then you would have the brilliant animators that would go over that work, you know. So they were actually doing some of the first things that a lot of it you can do with, you know, with computers now, but you couldn't do at that time. So it was really pretty, I mean, it was way out there, as Ralph is way out there, and Frazetta was way out there, and the animation back then is way out there. And now, you know, this is what happens. You know, she becomes Maud Flanders after she's. That's what happens when you grow up. You become Maud Flanders. Anyone?
Let me just do a little intro here. Fire and Ice was a major motion picture, animated feature film collaboration between Ralph Bakshi and the legendary illustrator Frank Frazetta, famous for The Death Dealer, Conan, and Creepy Neary, Umbrella, and so much more. And Bakshi sought out Frazetta to collaborate with him. Bakshi is like the most successful independent animated film director before, you know, other than Disney, before Pixar, really. And this is Ralph's son here. So let's hear it for Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta. Another thing that's going on, though, is that another famous director, Robert Rodríguez, has acquired the rights to do a live-action remake. So, you know, all of this, we've got the history of the original film and all the participants there. Gerry Conway here is a famous comics and television and film writer. He collaborated with Roy Thomas, who had done all the Conan comic books. They collaborated on the screenplay. So that's just kind of like a little intro. But also, all this is kind of leading up to also the Robert Rodríguez live-action remake, which is coming in the next year or so, and he's working with Sony for the major motion picture release.
Robert Rodríguez is a big fan of Frazetta and his artwork. He's a big collector of his artwork, and I think this is going to be a realization of Frank's dream, because one of the things I asked him when I was on set was, how are you going to get the beautiful shading and chiaroscuro of your artwork to marry with the cel-shaded art that is a part of Bakshi's work? And he said, well, frankly, we're not going to be able to do that because it would take years to do that. They didn't have the technology back in the early 80s to do that. There were some scenes, I thought, where they were running through the fog-shrouded barren marshes that gave it a 3D look. And I thought, okay, now it's getting juicy. Now it's, you know, getting the depth in it. But I think what is possible now that Robert Rodríguez is going to be able to do with the full CG toolset, he wants to make a living, breathing Frazetta movie on screen, and I hope he succeeds.
Oh, I think he will. I'm sure that he'll ask me to come back as Tigra. He, you know, it's what he does. No. And the best thing for me besides the doing Tigra was Ralph was very much that type of person that wanted everything raw. Like in Heavy Traffic, he actually got hookers to come in to do the part of hookers. Kind of a wacky deal. But and I also did Mighty Mouse with him.
I wonder if there was any research going on there.
But the thing is there's one scream that Tigra does, if you guys, and obviously you've seen the movie or maybe you haven't, that they had some girl that was like, she was a banshee and she screamed like something. Me, had no scream. So they throw me off of this cliff, and it is so sad. You can actually rerun it and just laugh a lot because it's so sad for her. She's just like, ah! I said, Ralph, can't you like beef it up, do something? Oh no, it's fine. Okay, good, good, that's great. I'm obviously not a screamer, but
You know,
yeah, bringing Ralph in, the fabulous Ralph Bakshi.
The miracle of the 21st century technology.
Okay, I will come on. Good to see you, Rob.
I don't think your mic's on.
Sure. Well, first, the thoughts are great. Working with Frazetta, he was a friend of mine, one of the great artists I admire. The Total War. We had a lot of fun. It was his first movie. And he lived with me in California. So we had lots of fun at night. And he was a great guy to be with. So I really think very wonderfully about that. This is the day before computers. So all the animation was hand-drawn, even though it was rotoscope. But just thanks for the first to come by in those days. In fact, unless you had a lot of money, you really could not get it done. But Frank and I didn't mind. We enjoyed making the film. And to us, it was a comic book. In other words, we made the stage between a big budgeted movie, let's say like Star Wars, or a simple comic book, which Frank grew up with, which is a whole different medium. Fire and Ice is a comic animated, as opposed to a huge feature, which is probably what Mr. Rodríguez is planning to do, which is good. All the special effects he has in his disposal. So I had a good time.
All right, well, I'm going to give some questions over to our panelists, see if they have any questions for you, actually.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you great. Is there anything you'd like to ask Ralph? Well, I mean, you know it well. Is there anything you want me to tell about the public for?
Someone he said you used real hookers for the film.
Oh, Mr. Spurlock says that someone reported that you used real women of the night for the film. He wanted to know if that was correct.
What are women of the night?
Yeah, he alleges real hookers.
Ralph, this is Maggie Roswell, who was your fabulous Princess Tigra. But I understood that you used real hookers when you were doing heavy traffic.
Yeah, this question is specifically for heavy traffic. Maggie wants to know too. She understands that you used real hookers for that project.
Oh, for heavy traffic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, well, listen, you know, basically that's the right way to go. I mean, if you're doing the city film, look, that was, you know, in those days, Disney was king. And every bit of animation dialogue was recorded pristine in the studio, one line at a time. So the director could say, I like it, I don't like it, I almost like it, I hate it. What I wanted to do, what I was into, was getting out on the streets and making an animated film. So the hookers were real, and I recorded their dialogue and with the Niagara, tape battery operated tape recorder. I wasn't in the studio. In Princeton Cat, I went to Washington Square Park, and all the girls in the bathtub and everything were all delighted to record for the film. And I paid each one of them as little as I could, because I didn't have much money. But I was very much into breaking the sort of mold that animation is into. So yes, in heavy traffic, everybody was authentic. I mean, I think that's the way to make a film, especially in animation. You know?
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but that's the only reason I watch. I mean, right? That's pretty universal.
That's innovation.
Okay, well, if we could, let's see if we can bring Robert in.
That's a good question.
I think she's good for that.
You look a little nervous. Are you okay? You're doing fine. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. Let's give Robert a call and see if he's available.
Oh, he'll be available. Of course, he's not going to be available.
I'm coming. Gotta click on my camera. Hey there.
Hi, Robert. Give me just a second. I want to make sure that we're on with Ralph. Make sure that we're
right
here.
I see Ralph.
All right.
Hi, Rob.
Hey Ralph, how you doing?
All right, guys, take it away. Let's go into the
Answer
current
the
project.
question.
So I had a question for you, Ralph.
Why?
What was it that gave you the original idea to do this film with Frank? What was it that started it off?
Well, to be quite frank, so many years later, Frank was a dear friend of mine. Frank was one of the artists that I love very much. We both were Brooklyn boys. And I really thought it'd be fun to work with him on a movie because we could just hang out and I could beat him in stickball because he thought he was a very good stickball player. And I used to play him and his kids who thought they were great. My kids did okay, you know, Frank would never admit it. The inspiration for the movie, just because I had done Lord of the Rings and Wizards. So fantasy was something that I love very much.
Right.
So the inspiration was just to do fantasy rotoscope film, because that wasn't done before, but the most important thing was to hang out with Frank.
Right.
And learn. Don't forget, working with Frank in the studio, I'm teaching him animation, he's teaching me painting.
Yeah.
So, you know, learning that while Alan St. John and various distribution companies are paying us money for us to hang out and do this, to ball. So it was that. It wasn't a big budget film. I don't think it was $1.5 million.
Right. And then you also did it for, in a way where you used a lot of his iconic images from his paintings. Was that also conscious? Like, let's make an ultimate Frazetta film using his iconography, or how did that come about? It felt like such a great way to see all of his work in one. Some direct references to some of his famous paintings are actually in the film.
Well, absolutely. Of course, I knew we didn't have the time to spend the time to paint. So what we decided was Frank was at a comic book more than a Frank was at a painting, because that was more realistic.
Right.
I was lucky enough to find and hire 2 kids to paint the backgrounds. Because that was my biggest problem, to make sure that Frank knew who was painting his backgrounds. Because that's as close to his painting as we can get.
Right.
And I hired these 2 kids out of Berkeley College. They came in as a team. Well, Thomas Kincaid, who went on to become one of the biggest painters for money in America, and James Gurney, who went on to do Dinotopia, I think.
Right.
They were really good painters, even at that age. And Frank was very happy with them. And they painted in the Frazetta style. Frank had absolutely no problem with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they loved Frank. Frank used to bring his paintings in during the weekend and Friday. Frank would bring paintings in, show all the artists and discuss it. So, but I'll tell you a funny story. I remember the first day Frazetta worked into the studio and walked around looking around, and all the artists couldn't draw. They freaked. I'm
sure they dropped their pens.
Yeah, they out of the studio for a while.
Yeah.
Some guys were faking. It was like Frazetta who was basically a very, smooth, soft guy at home shows up in the studio and all the guys are afraid to draw. I remember Steve Gordon was sitting there shaking. He was one of my animators. Doesn't shake anymore. So very funny.
Steve Gordon's here with us.
Talking to him about drawing, and it was the art lesson for kids.
Right. I was such a big Frazetta fan, big fan of yours, and I'm a huge Fire and Ice fan. I mean, I can prove it. I think next to anyone who worked on the film, I'm the biggest fan. I got my DVD right here. I've got my original script by Roy Thomas and Gerry Conway right here. I've got what Frank used to make for the artists to keep everybody consistent. They would do these little clay sculptures so that everybody would make Darkwolf look like Darkwolf. I got one of those here. I've got an original oil sketch of Darkwolf it was a study for the painting that would be the movie poster. So this is in my house, just to show, and while I'm at it, I've actually got the original painting of Fire and Ice that was used for the poster. So I'm a huge Fire and Ice fan, and I love what you did with it back then, because you were doing motion capture, performance capture before Cameron was doing Avatar, and you were filming actors, rotoscoping, and creating some of the most beautiful and striking visuals to get that Frazetta style, iconography, movement, mood. And I remember when I saw it as a kid, being a huge Frazetta fan, I loved how it captured his world. And I remember thinking, God, it would have been impossible for him to make it look like the paintings. They would have had to paint every frame. It would be impossible. You'd still be making the movie today. But what I thought with technology and computers, and why I wanted to do the film, is that you could do that today. You could make it feel like his paintings just came to life. Kind of like with Sin City, we made Frank Miller's artwork just move. I want to make Frazetta's world just move.
I'm sorry.
No, but my reason for doing the film was similar to yours, to work with Frazetta in a way. But also, I just, being such a fan of his since I was younger, seeing his influence, I got to become friends with him. My big dream was to work with him someday, and I got to work with him on a movie called From Dusk Till Dawn. He did a painting of Salma and of the characters, and I got to become friends with him. And I kept talking with him about doing an ultimate Frazetta movie, because it was upsetting me that so many people were stealing from him and not crediting him. You would see his artwork influence in everything, in movies. And there's actually a movie being made right now that I just talked to some producers, and they said, oh, we're stealing the Death Dealer character visual, look, pose, everything, just because, it's Frazetta. But it's like, yeah, but you're not crediting him. So I wanted to make a movie that was kind of like what you did, where you show all his iconography, but give the man credit for really influencing a lot of fantasy. And originally, Frank and I talked about I almost made Princess of Mars for a while, because he made the ultimate John Carter paintings, and I went to visit him again and looked at his artwork and went, wow, we can't make the movie look like this, we shouldn't do it. I didn't do it. I almost did a Conan movie, and again, to try to make Frazetta's version of Conan. But both of those properties felt like they'd be saddled with that baggage of those properties, where Fire and Ice, I finally realized, I was the purest Frazetta way, because he actually worked on it with you. If we did a Fire and Ice movie, we could make the ultimate Frazetta film, and it wouldn't be, all the focus could be on Frank. So that's kind of what we're doing. And you're a producer, and we're going to make it, we're not going to rest until we get it right.
That's great. Why you work with Frank Miller is beyond.
I'm sure it was as fun as far you had with Frank Frazetta.
How can we fun with Frank Miller? He can't draw. Now Frazetta can draw.
You know what, Frank? I showed Frank
I'm only kidding.
Frazetta's artwork, and he was completely humbled. Again, that thing you just said about the artist, everybody's humbled, right? They go like, I wish I could do that. Most artists, any artist will look at it, wish they could do what Frazetta could do.
Now Frazetta knew that people were ripping him off. He was very angry about it.
But it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. It's still going on today.
Well, look, the point is Edwin Hopper is also being ripped off because it's a great painter. I don't know if it's a rip-off or a homage. I gotta have to tell you the truth. In the early days, it's close. But when you're that great a painter, how many photographers shot live action pictures to look like a Edwin Hopper painting?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Frank's that class, or a Van Gogh or Lautrec. So, that comes with the territory of being world famous and great.
It does. I guess my point is that, people...
But you're right.
In fact, like when they made John Carter, the director had to tell his artists, don't bring me Frazetta. You can't just bring me Frazetta. We can't just rip off Frazetta, because everybody couldn't get those images out of their head. and had to go a different direction. They should have just gone in the direction of Frazetta. So my point is, like, instead of pretending like you aren't influenced by him, do him head on. You know, instead of hiding your influence or your homage, do him head on and make the ultimate Frazetta.
You should have hired him.
Yeah.
Give him a job. Honest need jobs. Give him a job. He would have done John Carter homage. You know, he would have done all that stuff. You're right, Rodríguez. And I'm glad you're making this film if you feel the right way about it.
And you made a great film that inspired us to do this. And we thank you for that.
Thank God that you know. So what?
All right, guys. I hate to jump in because I'd love to watch this actually all day, but I know that we have to start taking some audience question. So I'm going to be the jerk. I'm sorry, guys. I know.
We can talk for a long time.
That'll be my day job gone. I'm sorry. All right.
Excuse me. May I say a quick hello to them both?
Absolutely.
Ralph, this is Sean Hannon. I was honored to be selected by you.
How you been?
I've been great, thank you. It's so good to see you again. I just really want to say thank you so much for how you were with me on set, the support you gave me, because this was my first feature film, and I was frankly terrified. And I was walking among giants, and I just wanted to, you know, come loaded for bear and do the best I could for you. And I remember you threw us in the deep end of the pool on our very first shot, the shot where Necron is facing off Prince Taro and his envoy, and ended up with me doing the demonic puppeteering to have them kill each other. And we started off that shot, and I couldn't get a word out of my mouth, and I was going up on my lines, and Bill Ostrander was going up on his lines. And you had a way of just being chill, settling us down.
And Ralph, this is Maggie Roswell, who is now on The Simpsons for many years. Oh, can you not hear? Can you hear? Can you not hear?
I hear you. What did you say?
I said Maggie Roswell, who was your Princess Tigra.
Oh, I know you on that.
Yeah. So now doing The Simpsons, I think that Princess Tigra came all the way and became Maud Flanders and Helen Lovejoy, as well as doing Mighty Mouse with you. I still can't tell you how much fun it has been working with you, and then back in the day with Chris Falusi, and how insane. And Rodríguez, I'm so glad that you are doing an homage to these guys, because it's just, it doesn't get better. And I know with working with Simpsons on iconic things, for you to do an homage to the people that are really what it's all about. Frank, you know, Frank knocked me out, and Ralph, you knocked me out, and you guys are fantastic. I gotta say, you're just fantastic. Come on, everybody gets to applaud. They're brilliant, I told you.
Maggie, can you do a Tigra voice for us?
Well, yes, because all that Ralph had me do was running. That girl that had that body, forget about it. Oh, my sweet baby Jesus God. But she had a Southern accent, so I had to do the Southern accent. Except I couldn't do, he didn't want the Southern accent. He just wanted her to be breathing and running. And when my daughter saw it, who's 21 years old, she said to me, Mom, she saw those pictures, were you in a porn? I said, well, you know, it's a little bit pornographic, baby. A little bit different than The Simpsons is now, but it was Frazetta, and it was, you know, it just rocked. For me to have time with you and to be in Frazetta, ouch, mommy. And now Simpsons, you know, my life is complete. I love you. I'll talk to you.
And Stephen Gordon and Gerry Conway are here too.
Hey Ralph, how you doing?
I have a little trouble hearing.
Can you hear me?
Stephen Gordon.
Like that to come down? Like that to come down?
Here, this one. Here.
Ralph, can you hear me?
Now I could. I have a little trouble, but we'll see if I can continue to hear you.
That any better?
A little. But you never talk much anyhow.
No, just draw. How you doing?
The animated lawn.
You got any stories, Stephen, for working with Frank?
I'm glad you're making this film. I really am.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
You're the right guy. You're the right guy.
We're gonna have a great time.
No.
Well, thank you, Ralph, for giving me a chance to do as
I want to play. I want to play an ogre.
All right, guys. I'm sorry. I do have to be the jerk again. So Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. And I don't know which image I like better, quite frankly. But I know we want to open questions up for Ralph here and the rest of the panelists. We're going to do that real briefly. I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ralph.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Where are you calling from, Robert?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
I'm in Silver City.
Yeah.
All right, man.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Good luck, bro.
Bye, guys. Bye.
All right, so let's open a couple of questions up. If anybody has questions for the panel or for Ralph, please come to the microphone and let us know. Is there anything else you got?
I got a question. Gerry Conway, say something.
Gerry Conway has a question. Sure. Here, hang on a second.
Gerry Conway. Gerry Conway, screenplay writer.
Okay.
Gerry Conway, screenplay writer.
How you doing, Ralph?
Can you hear him?
No.
Speak up.
Can you hear me now? No. It's okay. Can anybody hear me? I can hear you. Hello, Ralph. Hi, guys.
Ralph, we're trying to get one that works for you. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
How did I treat him well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Rodríguez.
No, Rodríguez, no, I haven't heard from anybody. So.
He's a good guy.
I'm sure he is. But obviously is a fan of the film.
Why are they trying to talk to me? I might just hanging out here for fun. Conway, how you been?
I've been good. How have you been?
I'm surprised you're still alive.
Well, it was touch and go there for a while we were working on the film. So.
Where's Roy Thomas?
Roy, actually, he's fine. He's living in North Carolina, I think. So he's still writing, doing his stuff. We're all good. We're all good.
Why can't he talk? Is there something wrong with him?
He's just not here. He can talk.
Bring him up. Why don't you bring him up here?
He's not
Where?
here.
Arizona?
He's in North Carolina.
He's in North Carolina?
Yeah, he's not here.
Well, let's go to somebody who's there.
Here's Steve Gordon. He can talk.
North Carolina. Who lives in North Carolina?
Roy Thomas. Can you hear?
Keep talking. Talk for these people.
Try it.
Anyway, I was the very young and inexperienced animation director, supervisor on the film at the time. Ralph took a shot at having me do that, and it worked out reasonably well, I guess. It definitely gave me a lot of memories, and learned a lot of lessons and rules, Frazetta rules that I've still used to this day in my artwork. So,
were you very familiar with Frazetta before you took the job?
Yeah, I grew up looking at his work, wanting to imitate it as much as I could. Never quite succeeded, so it was very serendipitous to actually get the call from Ralph to work on the film. So it was great meeting him.
And were you very familiar with Ralph's films?
Well, at that point, I'd already worked with Ralph for several films. I started with Ralph on Lord of the Rings, straight out of high school. So I'd already had a lot of experience with Ralph, and so I think he assumed that he knew my abilities and wanted to push me further and gave me the job of trying to ape Frank's stuff as much as possible. So I ended up having to take a lot of Frank's designs and expanding them into model sheets and keying almost every scene of the film except for those with Tigra. We got someone else to do because we needed to have one person devoted just to her because it became back and forth. We went through all types of people. At one point, even Dave Stevens was involved, the creator of the Rocketeer. He was working on Tigra for a little bit, and we ended up giving the job as key animator of Tigra to a girl named Debbie Hayes. She worked as the lead on that character for a long time, and her and Frank worked side by side for quite a bit.
he mentioned, I was going over some text recently, some interviews with Frank, and he mentioned, you know, how good she was.
Yeah, she was very good. She was very inexperienced. She could draw like crazy, but had never really animated before, so I worked with her on her animation, got that working, and Frank worked with her on her drawing, and it all gelled together very well. She wasn't the only animator on Tigre, but she was the main one. So it worked out very nicely. It allowed me to devote all my attention to all the male members of the cast. So
I mentioned this briefly backstage, but I think there's a consensus of people who are, you know, very familiar with Fire and Ice that Tigre is probably the sexiest woman to ever be animated in American film.
yeah, there's a lot of fans. Whenever I do any Tigre prints or work, you know, the Facebook goes nuts.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to cut it there because we're out of time. I'm very sorry.
I got a couple of party favors. I gave a couple of books out earlier to Eddie, but I'll pass a couple down. Anyone who didn't get one yet. This is the latest Frazetta sketchbook, and there's interviews in there with Frank. There's also a chapter on Fire and Ice, as well as Conan and Captain and everything else. So whoever didn't already get one, pass it down to whoever didn't get one, all right? Sarah Frazetta and I will be over the Frazetta booth. Come check out all the cool stuff.
Great to see you again, Ralph. I'm really excited about your current film, Last Days of Coney Island. Can't wait for that to come out. The artwork is sensational.
We love you, Ralph.
Ralph, you're universally loved. We want to thank you for calling in today. We're really excited you were able to come and join us.
Aren't you going to ask me about my new movie?
I'm sorry?
Aren't you going to ask me about my new movie?
Well, what's your new movie?
Well, I thought you never asked.
That's what I was just talking about.
But Last Days of Coney Island. I'm finishing it now. It's not quite a movie, but it's almost a movie. And it's all about Brooklyn in the 60s. So my son is producing it, Edward Bakshi. And I've animated and designed and did all the background stuff. I'm pretty excited. It's old school animation.
Very nice.
It's closer to Heavy Traffic and Prince the Cat and Ain't Good Looking than it is to Wizards.
Well, if you guys need some girls, I can make some calls. So we have live action.
What? What did you do?
I said if you need some girls for live action, let us know. We'll make a call. I mean, we're down in Fort Lauderdale. We have plenty of time, okay?
I'm not shooting a live action. It's animation.
Oh, okay.
Live action for Rodríguez.
All right.
Hello.
All right, Ralph, thank you so much. We have
Where am I going? Are you sending me back?
You can hang out with us.
You can, yeah, give me a call.
I'm gonna go.
Come on down.
I love to talk to you guys. I love animation fans. I love that the people from Fire and Ice are there. I just wish I had heard more of what they had to say. It's been a long time since I've seen them, and they all did great. About Necron being nervous and everything, right? I enjoyed that. The trick was to keep him hysterical, to keep him nervous, so he'd be this freak on camera.